Hey, everybody. This is Editing Megan popping in to say that if you didn't watch or listen to last week's episode, you might want to stop here and go do that. And the reason is that we're going to be picking up right in the middle of our conversation about pornography. Last time we talked a lot about its impacts on, Stephen's life, our relationship, the early years of our marriage. But we're going to be switching gears and talking about its impact on the church community and the people that we work with and the patterns that we're seeing. So I hope that everyone is ready to dive into that. Again, this is not intended to be any kind of critique of the church or the people in the church or people who are struggling with addiction. Definitely go check out last week's video if you haven't already. And we will see you guys later.
So fast forward, a couple years, and I would go through again. It was the same season of struggle, right? And I would go months and months and months without looking at it.
What would the pattern be? What was the trigger?
Man, about to get some transparent podcast here.
Because we've been tiptoeing around stuff.
Yeah. So in the seasons of our life and I say our life, like literally mine and your life together, what I originally thought the trigger was when we would go through seasons of our marriage where we didn't have sex as much.
Yeah.
Whether it be to body image issues, whether it be stress or life, communication. I felt like my needs were not being met is a big one that I would convince myself is what it was.
Because at this time in our holy and Holy Ghost filled marriage, is it fair to say that we were still sometimes using our sexuality to meet needs?
100%.
So again, I just want just to call out this, the fallen world is still influencing our holy married sexuality that we are trying to bring into alignment with scripture at this point.
Yeah.
It's not like you get married and suddenly your sexuality becomes sanctified.
Yeah.
Right? The marriage is not what sanctifies your sexuality. You putting that on the altar over and over again in your marriage.
Yeah.
And committing to using it for what it was designed for, which is the intimacy and commitment with your spouse, right?
Yeah.
Is what sanctifies it over time.
Yeah. That's what I thought it was.
A lack of sex.
A lack of sex. Because that's what, again, the narrative that every guy hears, that guy has to have sex. Or else, if he doesn't, then
this urge just can't be contained.
This primal urge,
it's like the Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. Is not met, and then he can't function in life, apparently.
Right.
So it's one of the things that was a narrative I kind of was willing to believe, but really that was the desire to escape.
Yes.
The desire that when stress was getting hit hard, when stuff was coming up that I didn't want to mentally deal with, I then started recognizing that I used it to run from my problems.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is, sorry, I didn't. You weren't my problems.
No, but our
overall, I had been using that to run from my problems, and I realized I looked back after, and this is years into our marriage. I started looking back and realizing I started using porn, looking at porn. I think 4 months after my dad died.
Right.
So every time. Or I would come home and my mom and my stepdad was arguing or fighting, or I'd come home and she had a black eye.
When your home became a space of stress and a lack of safety.
Yeah.
You would use that to medicate that hurt.
Yes.
And fun fact, early marriage, no matter how much you are in love, there are challenges that arise from daily life outside of that will you have to build those walls up in your home. They will come into your home and you have to deal with them as a couple.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I recognized that since, and also working with my buddy Sean, love you Sean, and seeking out accountability and a conversation around it, that really, and also understanding the idea that porn wasn't the problem.
Yeah. Sex wasn't the problem.
Yeah. Well, in my circumstance, like my situation, sex and porn wasn't the problem.
Mm-mm.
I was using it to cope with things that I had not dealt with.
Yeah.
And my body reacted and I recognize it now that I've been going to therapy and going and really working on my trauma from my past. And now that I'm away from pornography and have been for a while now, and I'm very happy to say that, it's one of those things is I still recognize when my body tries to escape.
Yeah. And I want to say too, like, I'm so proud of you for that work, because as your wife, it's been beautiful to watch you. There's times when I can almost see you going through the process of feeling that need to escape and deciding you will not.
Yeah.
And it is so intentional. And I know it's difficult because tell you what, parenting young kids will make you want to escape sometimes.
Yeah.
We love our children, by the way.
Yeah. I feel like the podcast we just talk about how tired we are. And it's true. We're just tired.
It's the best thing in life. Like,
but it's the most rewarding and amazing thing you'll ever experience, besides the Holy Ghost.
Here's the thing. And this is what I think people don't understand is, like, you can be living a blessed life full of good things.
Yeah.
And still experience triggers that will make you go to those coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to dip into the synchrony space for this a little bit. Right. And I'm not here to throw anybody's experiences under the bus or diminish anybody here. And
Absolutely not.
I'm speaking in generalities because, believe me, I've spoken to probably
600.
Well, that's interviews and stuff, but like, in terms of the number of women who are part of the narrative I'm about to describe.
Oh yeah.
Probably getting close to 100, right?
Yeah.
Of women who are divorced or who came out of a very serious relationship, like an engagement, because their partner was struggling with a pornography addiction or allowed that pornography addiction to build into a different kind of sex addiction.
Yeah.
Right. Or into a type of abuse or into a host of other dysfunctions that can come from consistently exposing yourself to this stuff. Right. Yeah. I want to emphasize here, like, the amount of damage that consistent exposure to pornography can do is insane.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to diminish that. It is tragic. But so many women have told me, I had no idea this was happening because we were in ministry and God was doing great things and God was blessing and our marriage had been good up to that point. And I thought that he loved me and I thought everything was fine. That is not everyone's story, but a lot of people will say, and then I found it on his computer, and then he got caught in a sting operation because it was for underage, or then X, Y, and Z thing, right? And a lot of times they'll bring that up and they'll have guilt of like, why didn't I see this? Why didn't I see the signs? The thing about it is you can be struggling with this while living a blessed and good life.
Yeah.
Our first few years of marriage, thanks to everything that we had gone through and all the decisions we had made, were actually, I think, comparatively easy than what a lot of people encounter, right?
Yeah.
We had a great relationship. We had, things were good.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you don't get triggered.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that there aren't times where the normal everyday stresses of just living life and starting a family and getting into ministry and figuring out how to balance all those things, that's enough to make you reach for those coping mechanisms that you've been training your brain to use since childhood.
That's the thing is, like, my brain was wired. Mm-hmm. Like, if you've ever ridden a dirt bike, like, and you're riding
I have not, but sure.
Okay, let's use 53rd on as an example.
It's a road.
There's a road in Gainesville that just recently got repaved, thank the Lord. Yeah. But a lot of semis drive on it, right? A lot. So much so that 2 semi-sized tire divots had developed in the road. Yeah. That were annoying to drive over when it wasn't wet, but when it was wet, it was almost like your car was like a magnet to go in it. And it was so deep that it would like almost make you overcompensate and almost go into the other lane. It was
Right.
very scary to drive in, especially during the rain. And so it's one of those things is like, I feel like when things are easy and things are going smooth, it's like 53rd and it's not raining. You can just choose to ride between those divots.
Right. You can kind of ignore the fact that they still persist.
Yeah. But the moment it rains or something tragic happens, it's almost like your body tries to escape and go to that spot because
Right.
that's where the road has been paved or that's the way it's been for so long. The tracks have been that way for so long.
Yeah.
And I have to say that like I had already been on this road of healing and recovery and understanding myself. But then Pastor Tony preached the Ouch series
Oh, so good.
at our church that is so good.
We'll drop a link in the description, but go look up Pentecostals of Gainesville's YouTube and look for the Ouch series.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
It's phenomenal, but he ends up saying something, and forgive me if I misquote it, but he says something along the lines of, you can pray for God to deliver you from depression, from anger, from drugs, and God will sometimes deliver you from those things. But if you don't actually work on the behaviors that cause you to go towards those things, he can deliver you every day of your life, but you're probably going to go right back to it. And that was one of those things. It's like I was already starting to recognize, and I was already working through counseling, and I was already like seeing it.
You have to address the root cause.
Yeah, but pornography wasn't the problem for me. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not good. Like, I'm not saying it was a good thing. It wasn't like something I shouldn't have tried to get on a recovery journey sooner. But it was me recognizing that it was a symptom.
Yeah.
And like recognizing that I've got to work on my inner healing. I've got to work on my trauma, my childhood, and the root to why my body tries to escape.
One of the speakers, one of the AMP speakers, and brother, if I cannot remember your name, but he said the behavior is indicative of the underlying hurt, right?
Yeah.
And I'm paraphrasing, and he's like, thank God for the behavior.
Yeah.
Because if, he said sometimes people get frustrated that God allows them to struggle with these things. But if you didn't have a visible symptom of this underlying hurt, you'd never have a reason to heal.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like sometimes, until it's like having an infection under the surface of your skin, right? That until you feel pain.
Yeah. Pain is just a mechanism, as an alarm system.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and again, we're talking about pornography, but all of us are doing this with something.
Yeah.
Right. Because all of us, none of us come out of childhood whole. We live in a fallen world. All of us have grappled with some kind of hurt that we are tempted to medicate with our humanity. Right.
Yeah.
And the beauty and the struggle and the challenge of the Christian walk is our natural instincts of how to fix those things pale in comparison to what the Creator knows we need.
Yeah.
And submitting to his process of healing and stepping into that is much more challenging, but it is closer to our design to heal that way than the way we try to medicate it with all the habits that we've cobbled together to fix things.
Yeah. I just want to like kind of tie the bow on with the sermon from Pastor Tony.
Yeah.
When between like therapy and between prayer and between recognizing why I would try to go towards pornography or when I would try to escape, it was very revelatory for me. Because what happened, and I have not, and I hadn't stopped watching pornography before that. But anytime I have been tempted now, it's not about, well, I have needs. My flesh would sometimes, my carnality would come out and say, well, you know what? you deserve to feel good.
Yeah.
You know, this is like because in my mind it used to be about sex.
Right.
It used to be about the desire that the gave myself permission to be carnal, even though I'm not, as apostolics we shouldn't give ourselves permission to be carnal.
Sure.
But now that I know that, one, I'm working on processing my trauma from my childhood and working on processing the ways that my brain had developed escape mechanisms to survive when I was younger, I now feel that desire to do that. And I go, no, God has given me grace to be able to have strength against this.
Yeah.
God has, God, I have the Holy Ghost. And yes, I'm tired. And yes, I would love to not think. But it's more about, what's the word? Not disembodied. When your brain tries to escape.
Dissociation.
Yes, disassociation. I have learned to recognize through therapy, when my body tries to disassociate. That is when I was at the highest risk for going to pornography.
Right.
Is when I was trying to disassociate. And so it's one of those things is that has given me so much strength to resist it. And also, it also helps me recognize to when say, hey, Lord, I need your help right now.
Right. And when you have to reach out to your accountability partners.
Yeah, exactly.
Or come to me and say like, hey, this, because like,
yeah.
And spoiler, like your spouse eventually, one of the things we kind of glazed over is your spouse does not fix this problem, both because sex is not the answer to the problem.
Yeah.
But also because your spouse is not a good accountability partner. And I'll beat that drum for forever. Like, that is a role that I cannot fill for you.
No, because there's too many like potential, and I'm saying this in the most loving way possible. There's too many risks for consequences.
It's like having so you are also like you are the team captain of our home, right?
Yeah.
You don't go to your teammate necessarily for coaching. You go to your coach.
Yeah.
Right. Because you are leading this family.
Yeah.
As your teammate who is part of this, there is a level of support that I can't provide you, that you need someone who is external to the game, to observe and to coach you on, you know what I mean? So I want to connect this really quickly to what we do in Synchrony and why this is important. By the way, thank you for talking about all this. I think it's really meaningful. It has become so abundantly clear as we've talked to singles that this is pornography and the use of pornography and the underlying hurts that are causing people to reach for pornography are drastically contributing to loneliness.
Yeah.
Right. AMP put together this great little pamphlet that we picked up, and I'm going to read off the statistics that they provide, which I think these are about the general Christian population, so not specific to apostolics. But they give some really, they cite some really interesting statistics. So 1 out of 6 women, including Christian women, this is, I think, women in the general population, struggle with pornography addiction.
Yeah.
Which is higher than most people assume. 68% of church-going men view pornography regularly. So that's not men who have been exposed to pornography and have used it in the past. 68.
That's basically 7 out of 10 men.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm not saying that's crazy as in like we should be ashamed of that. I'm saying that's crazy that there's not more conversations about
It's crazy that it's so common and we're not talking about it.
Yeah, it's still taboo.
Yeah.
And it's sorry, keep on going.
It's going to get rougher, so hang tight.
More rough.
Yeah. Over 50% of pastors view porn regularly.
That
And again, this isn't necessarily about apostolic pastors.
Yeah, sure.
But if I could tell you the number of former pastors' wives that I have talked to as part of Synchrony, whose marriages and whose churches have been destroyed because they discovered their husband's hidden pornography addiction, or they didn't discover it until it metastasized into something much, much more destructive.
Yes.
Because pornography addiction is a gateway.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you start to invite that into your life and it becomes habitual, you have to, the way that your brain works neurochemically is there's a threshold, right? Of stimulus that has to be met in order for your brain to release the chemicals that it needs to, right?
Yeah.
If it just like with any drug, you know,
Yeah,
how
you build a tolerance.
you can build a tolerance to a drug. You can build a tolerance to pornographic stimulus, to where one thing that used to give you all the great brain juices doesn't work anymore, and you have to ratchet it up to something much more aggressive or much more detailed or what have you, and it gets worse and it gets worse and gets worse. And these addictions that start usually in childhood,
Yep.
with young men who go through life and build their ministries without the support and without the interventions that you've had available to you.
Yeah.
And try to do it by themselves and become pastors and nurse this secret addiction because they feel like they have to do it by themselves. It will not stay a low-key pornography addiction. It will develop into something much more heinous.
Yeah.
And much more destructive and hurtful. 55% of married men and 25% of married women watch pornography at least monthly. So that's not the number that watch it overall. That's the number that are watching it on a monthly basis.
On a monthly basis.
Right. So more than half of married men are watching it at least monthly.
And a quarter of married women.
Right. And then 57% of pastors say porn addiction is the most damaging issue in their church. And I am not surprised by that.
Honestly, I kind of expected it to be higher.
Yeah, and I think if you were to survey apostolic pastors, maybe it would be.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, I don't know. I just think we understand.
The ones they know about.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like,
I mean, that's probably accurate. It surprised me. I thought that was going to be higher.
Yeah. And maybe don't forget the pastors that they're surveying for this are also the ones where, you know,
some of the pastors
over 50% of them are watching porn regularly themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So take this with a grain of salt. So I don't know how this maps specifically to the apostolic space.
Sure.
For pastors. I do know that of all the men that I've spoken to since we started Synchrony, I can think of only one who told me he had had no exposure to pornography. God bless you, sir. You are living in a blessed life, right? And only a handful who told me that they had never struggled with an addiction to it, right?
Yeah.
Almost every young man in our church, I am convinced, has been exposed.
Oh.
Some of them as extremely young children.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not just the ones who go to public school. And it's not just, some of them are getting exposed in the church, like literally in the church building.
Yeah.
You know, everyone has access to that in their pocket now.
Yep.
So it is everywhere. And the result, because what it does is it isolates our young men. And women are affected by this too, but I'm focusing on the young men because of how this plays into the playbook of the enemy for our young men. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was about to say, the thing that really started us to go down this path of trying to figure out what's going on with the men is because we're realizing how big of a gender disparity there is.
Yeah, we're losing our men.
Yeah, and at first we thought, no, there's no way. Because I remember you saying, like, it's got to be at least, 50-50 or maybe 45-55, whatever.
Yeah, I was resistant. I was really resistant for a long time to the idea that there was a massive gender disparity in the church. But I am now pretty convinced that at least for singles between the ages of 30 and 45, there are significantly more women than there are men. So, I was resistant to that a long time ago, but I think we're at the point now where we have to acknowledge that it's probably not as severe as our gender disparity in Synchrony, because I think some of that is a marketing and access issue. But I think there are significantly more single women in our churches than there are men. And I think it's because we are seeing a massive die-off in our men from the church in their...
Not physical die-off.
No, thank God. just recidivism, right? Recidivism is not the right word. Hold on, what's the word? We're seeing men leave the church in much larger numbers. I believe somewhere between age 16 and age 25.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that go into that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not just pornography.
No, but I do think that what you described with the isolation and the shame and the condemnation of failure for young men who do not have a super supportive or who don't have ministry that are well equipped to discuss this, right?
Yeah.
You had the benefit of having a lot of younger ministers.
Yeah. If I did not have Nick,
Yeah.
that said there is a way out. Mind you, I had the Holy Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I was praying in tongues all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I had participated in fasting.
Mm-hmm.
I was actively involved.
Right.
And I still felt like it was a battle that I could not win.
How, out of curiosity, if thinking back to the guys that you grew up with in the youth group, right? The ones who have backslidden.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if any of them were watching pornography?
I mean, correlation doesn't equal causation,
Sure.
but I'm out of the ones that are not in church, I'm fairly certain all of them were viewing it.
Right. And I'm not saying that's the causal
Like
factor.
I know for sure a handful, but right. I can't say that. But again, going by context clues,
Sure.
jokes that were being said,
Right.
like it would make sense.
Yeah, and again, like you're right, correlation does not imply causation. We can't infer that because they watched porn, they left the church.
No.
But I think we can say that if your experience as a young man is common, and I think it is based on, there's also other great people talking about this,
We are not the whistleblowers by any means.
Adam King of Dear Young Married Couple has some great resources out for this. Sathya Sam, who they've interviewed as well, has an incredible platform where he talks about pornography addiction and recovery.
AMP.
And AMP. And they're all saying the same thing, that this shame and condemnation leads to isolation.
Yes.
And isolation slowly leads to absence, right? If you feel alone and unseen in the church, it is very hard to stay.
Yeah. Sorry, this could be a massive episode or multiple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
The problem the reason why I'm getting so passionate about this,
right,
is because there are men that have adopted like personalities that they are convinced that is their personality. And the way, what I'm trying to say is like, they don't trust anyone.
mm-hmm.
They're very to themselves, isolated,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll use the term, I'm an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a part of me, again, this is speculation. There's a part of me that's like, I remember feeling exactly what you're talking about at the peak, like in the middle of my addiction with pornography.
Right.
But yet that's become their character. That's become like their, not persona, but like, I think there's some people that have been it for so long. I don't think they're out, like, I'm not saying they're pedophiles. I'm just saying like they're out, they've been in this struggle, this isolation for so long that they truly believe that this is their character.
Well, because you can't, if you've heard the term cognitive dissonance, right?
Yeah.
Which is this sense of what you know to be true is not something that you can accept.
Yeah.
Right. When you know that you are, you believe that you are a person of character, right? But you can't reckon with the fact that you, a person of character, doing your best to live for God, is constantly falling prey to this addiction, right? And struggling with it and not feeling victory over it. You can't, and it's generating this sense of deep, deep shame. You can't really just sit in that cognitive dissonance all the time. Cognitive dissonance has to be resolved by you shifting your mindset. So something else has to become true, which is either, I guess I'm not a person of character, right?
Yeah.
Or like, maybe this isn't actually that wrong. Maybe this is fine. Maybe I'm just a very sexual person.
Yeah,
Maybe
everyone does it, so maybe it's not that big of a deal.
Right. You have to reconcile that disparity
Yeah.
in some way. And sometimes that means adopting a persona
Sure.
that's not you authentically.
Yeah. The hard part is, so we're taught our whole life, and we read in the Word of God about God's grace and mercy and repentance and forgiveness of sins. And you struggle. And I think this is where the shame and the guilt and the condemnation comes in, is because you're like, you know that God calls us out of that. We turn away from sin.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a part for me of, there is a cycle of my life where I was like, I believe I can get out of this, even with all of the people I had surrounding me.
Yeah.
But I still felt hopeless.
Sure.
So every service I would go to where I had recently messed up, in air quotes, like I felt like, why do I deserve this?
Right.
Because I can't even get my flesh under control. So why in the world do I deserve God's grace? Because obviously I'm not putting in hard enough work. I'm obviously not trying enough. Like these just lies that go through your mind, that I can totally see that if I was not surrounded by people who loved me and were invested in me, I can see myself pulling away as a result of like, well, maybe God's grace isn't actually that big of a deal, because I obviously can't get past this.
It's not working.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so it's like, but again, like, it wasn't the root cause.
No, and as crazy as this is, I believe that God can sometimes allow us to experience the pain of that consistent failure. You know, it's funny, going back to our kids, like our daughter sometimes will get fixated on an idea about how to do something.
Gosh, yeah.
And she'll try 1,000 different ways. You know, she's trying to build a car out of a bunch of cardboard, and she's making square wheels, right?
Yeah.
And it's not rolling, and she's frustrated.
For her, she doesn't understand like tape physics.
Yeah.
So like she thinks tape solves all problems, which I agree with that with duct tape, but she's using like Scotch tape.
Yeah, we're not giving her duct tape.
You know.
Anyway, so my point is she's frustrated because you know, the thing that she's expecting, it's not working the way she expected, right? And she thinks that it's something wrong with the situation, the materials. It's a misuse of the materials, right? And it comes down to that again. I mean, I'm going to make another parallel to this problem, and I'm specifically doing this for women because I want them to develop a compassionate outlook on this. I'm not trying to minimize or whatever.
So right? Women that don't struggle with pornography?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is a struggle that I think is much more accessible to women in a lot of ways. Not all women, but I think this is a parallel. So, people talk about food in eating disorders, right?
Yeah.
Trigger warning, eating disorders. Where, you know, the problem with an eating disorder is if you have an addiction to cocaine, right? You can remove yourself from places where you would encounter cocaine.
Yeah.
Right. You can change your life, change your friend groups, change the people that you're around. If you're an alcoholic, you can do the same thing. You cannot go to bars. You cannot go to cocktail parties. You can remove yourself from the social spaces where you would encounter that substance. You cannot remove food from your life.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you abuse food, either by not eating it or by eating way too much of it or by using it to harm yourself, right? You can't stop eating to fix this problem.
Yeah.
You have to get down to the root and reshape your relationship with this thing that you were designed to enjoy.
Yeah.
And to sustain yourself with.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing with sex addiction and pornography. Not pornography.
Well, similar.
Well, similar, right? And in the sense that you cannot, I don't believe most people can extract your sexuality from your life, right?
Yeah.
People have tried.
Go Paul.
I don't know that
I'm just
Paul.
kidding.
I think Paul probably struggled.
Yeah.
His writings make it seem like he
I
struggled with
wonder if that's
something.
what the thorn in his flesh was.
Some people say it was sexuality. Some people say it was, who knows, a host
Yeah,
of things.
sure.
We can ask him when we get to heaven. Hey, Paul. Well, nice to meet you. By the way,
What was your thorn?
yeah, we've been wondering.
Yeah.
So, but it's the same thing where you cannot take the design
Yeah.
away, right? You can't say I'm no longer a sexual being. God made you that way. Just like he said, you can't say I no longer eat, right?
Yes, you can try.
You can
Doesn't
try.
work.
It doesn't usually work. So instead of being able to remove yourself from it, you have to go through the much more difficult process of renegotiating your entire relationship with that and digging down to the root cause of why you abuse it.
Yep.
And I'm saying that because I want women who don't struggle with pornography, who, when I talk to them in a consultation setting, are sometimes, and rightly so, very, very off put by the idea of meeting a man who's ever struggled with.
Yeah, black and white.
Right. And they'll say, I really would prefer not to be with someone who's ever struggled with pornography. And I understand that. And I encourage you to not build a relationship with someone who has not done the work to address the root cause of that, because you're signing up for a complicated marriage.
Sure.
But I also want you to have a very compassionate outlook on what this struggle is about, right? It's not about someone who has just given themselves over to sexual perversion and is a pervert, right? We throw that label around all the time. We got to be really careful how we apply that to people.
Yeah, sure.
It is a person who has, because of a need, has gotten into a pattern of abusing a part of their God-given design to cover up another wound and to solve a problem that it wasn't designed to solve.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's the hard thing, is like literally why, like, how do you create a relationship where you have a healthy viewpoint of sexuality and your relationship with your body and your spouse's body or your future spouse's body,
right?
And get that under subjection. And I honestly think it comes down to starting with asking, do the 5 whys. Like, why are you, like, analyze when you are at your worst, when you are struggling the most, what has just recently happened? Like, why are you going to that?
Can we model that for people?
Sure.
I could do a little, because I think this would be helpful for people to see.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's paint the scenario that, you've had a crazy day and you have a desire to reach for pornography.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't even necessarily have to be a crazy day, but sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's just say that you have a desire to reach for pornography, right?
Yeah.
And I want you to respond with typical things that you would have been experiencing when you were in your addiction.
Yeah.
Right. Why do you want to watch porn?
To not be in my brain.
Why do you want to not be in your brain right now?
Because it's uncomfortable. Like, the feelings I'm feeling, I might not have an answer for, or it might cause me to feel a certain way that I don't want to feel. And I find myself looking for other ways to feel better about myself.
Why don't you want to feel the feelings?
In this example, we'll just say, probably because I'm not fulfilling a role or an expectation that I think I should be meeting.
Because you feel ashamed.
Because I feel ashamed or guilty or not enough, or I'm not meeting my own expectations.
I'm going to summarize that as because I feel like I'm failing.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Why do you feel like you're failing in this hypothetical scenario? I'm going to rephrase this one. This is a why, but I'm going to frame it a little bit differently. Who told you that you were failing?
It could be a mix between societal pressure and my own expectations I'd made for myself. I mean, there could be family or like friendship or leadership expectations that I like a certain bar I should be meeting.
Yeah. You sometimes get triggered. This is me observing this as your wife, right? You work really hard to kind of like maintain our home or like our car, right? Mm-hmm. And I have critical family members who shall not be named.
No, you don't.
Yeah. Good job. Who do not listen to our podcast, who will comment on that for you.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they're the cause of your addiction or whatever,
no.
But when you are put in a position where you are made to feel ashamed of something or that you have failed to meet a standard that other people were expecting of you,
yeah,
you run from that emotion.
Yeah.
Which is a normal human thing to do.
Yeah. And to caveat, like I don't think it's one time one person says something that I don't agree with, I run from it and go seek out that. I think it's a accumulation of life.
And it can be 1,000 different.
I think it's a mismanagement. I think a big part of it is a mismanagement of unprocessed emotions and behaviors.
Yeah.
And it's not being intentional about recognizing what you're feeling and why you're feeling. Because now that I have been given terminology around recognizing when my body is disassociating or trying to, it has helped me recognize so much like, hey, your body is trying to not be here right now.
Right.
Whereas before, I thought that, like, I didn't recognize that as a response to a stimulus.
Right.
I thought that was me and my personality and my character and one of my sinful flaws that I thought I just had to struggle with. And really, and like, don't get me wrong, it is in its own way, but like it gave it so much less power.
It's kind of like, so another metaphor for this. So my great grandmother believed strongly that mentholatum, which is basically like a menthol ointment, cured everything.
Oh, I like onions in your socks.
Yeah, she'd put it all. She'd smear it all over you. It's like a vapor rub, right? Like if you're from a Latino family, Viva Poru, right? You can put it on for whatever, and it's going to cure everything.
Yeah.
But she believed it was mentholatum, and she was like in a little green container, and she would smear that all over you, no matter what you were sick with. That was going to fix it, right? Stomachache, cold, fever, whatever, mentholatum. These habits that we're talking about, these processes of abusing some aspect of our design to fix a problem is like that, right? The actual underlying sickness or ailment could be a host of different things. You could be triggered on several different levels about several different types of trauma or several different kinds of issues. But we're going to apply that same cure-all to it because we've had success with that in the past, and our brain is wired to think that that's going to fix it for us.
Yeah.
You know, for me, often it's food. I've abused food in this way. I have a history of that where I'll go, no matter how I'm feeling, and whether it's a good feeling, a bad feeling, a celebratory feeling, a depressed feeling, I'm reaching for the sugariest, carbiest, richest foods I can to cope with all that noise, right? So all that to say is, like, if you're a person who struggled with addictive behaviors of any kind, sitting with a professional, because that little 5 whys exercise is barely scratching the surface. Yeah,
and it'll be easier to do the 5 whys when you've sat down with a counselor for a couple sessions,
right? And
start breaking down this stuff, and you'll be able to recognize the 5 whys. I kind of oversimplified it a little bit, but
let's talk about how people can get help with this, because I think we've kind of run the topic into the ground a little bit, and I want to give people hope.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to put a lot of resources in the description of this episode, but just a handful to list them off.
Episodes.
Yeah, episodes probably. AMP, they have free, a really beat up brochure that was in my suitcase from conference. AMP has free support groups, anonymous support groups that you can join, support calls. I think they're on a weekly basis, and
I don't remember,
something like that. Really frequent.
They do have some free ones.
Free support groups that you can join. They also have some more in-depth paid services. counseling specifically for folks that are struggling with pornography and sex addiction. And it's fantastic resources. We also work really closely with a group of counselors that are all both licensed ministers with apostolic organizations, and they are also all licensed therapists or mental health practitioners from accredited universities and programs. And they are able to serve people from a variety of backgrounds and in a clinical capacity to support people that are struggling with addictive behaviors. We work with them and they discount our clients or people that we refer. So concierge counseling is that group, and we'd love to point you to them. They're fantastic. I also want to call out Adam King.
Yeah.
He does during a married couple. Adam King is half of that couple. He does pornography addiction focus groups with small groups of men, and he'll open sessions on a frequent basis for these. So it's not something that runs constantly. He'll sort of do groups and then kind of, work with those guys and then move on to the next group. My understanding is that it's really powerful. Adam's an excellent coach.
Yeah.
And he brings a lot of research and data to bear on his work. So I think it's a great place to sort of point people to.
There is something I want to kind of throw in here. A lie that the devil convinced me for a very long time was that I needed to, if I didn't conquer, air quotes, conquer this on my own, then am I truly delivered from it?
Oh, wow.
Because again, it was a personal battle,
Right.
but also that was a lie that convinced me to not use an accountability software.
Yeah.
So I also have a caveat to the caveat. I think accountability software is incredibly useful tool. The one I use is Covenant Eyes. It does require someone else to be your accountability partner. That if you were to go on a website, you can set the frequency in which they would get an email, but basically it would display that they would get an alert that you've been on a website, and you can get as detailed as you want with that. So that way that your accountability partner can reach out to you.
Yeah.
That being said, again, if you are just trying to use an accountability software as a way to stop you from looking at pornography, you will find other avenues to scratch that itch.
It's a moat around the castle, but you need 3 additional walls.
No, but what I'm saying is the part that for me, that what I love about the software is the immediate carnal temptation to even think about going to it. I now know Sean is going to get an email if I do that.
Yeah.
So I have one good is it's good to it's good to have that in the light, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's been a very different journey for me knowing that I am working on the reasons why I'm looking at pornography.
Hope is a powerful accelerant.
Yeah. And it is, again, for me personally, pornography is a symptom, and I'm working on the root cause.
Yeah.
So it makes it so much less tempting because I know hey, this doesn't have to be my coping mechanism.
Right.
So I still think I love Covenant Eyes. I love what they do. I'm glad it's there. But I don't think that is the answer. That is not the solve.
Right.
You have to have other methods to be working on the root cause to why you're looking at pornography.
Right. Again, the behavior is a result of something unhealed.
Yeah.
And you have to allow the healing. And the healing is done in the body collectively.
Yeah.
You cannot heal this on your own, right?
Yeah.
If you get a cut on your finger, the answer is not to cut off your finger and set it on a shelf until it heals itself and then reattach it.
Yeah.
every member of the body has to be in connection to the body to receive healing.
Yeah.
So I pray that everyone listening to this is blessed with the leadership, like the leadership we've sat under.
Yes.
That is informed and is compassionate and understands. If you are not, then there are great spirit-filled mentors and leaders that are working in a professional capacity that I want you to try to connect with. Right?
Yeah.
If you cannot find leaders who will sit with you and walk with you through this in your own congregation, or mentors in your own congregation, hear me when I say you have to find one somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I wish that everyone had available people in their congregation who were primed for this. But if there is not someone there are other people out there that you can connect with, and it's so important.
Yeah. I want to reemphasize, do not wait for a mentor to come to you and say, hey, I want to mentor you.
Yeah.
Because again, we want to feel special. We want to feel seen.
Mm-hmm.
I really, there's that desire there. So I really think that if this is something that you're feeling convicted about or really want to try to pursue,
Mm-hmm.
if there's someone that you know that you really look up to spiritually, consider them as someone that could be a mentor to you, and go up and ask them like, hey, is there any way you can, I know mentor sounds grandiose, but like it sets the tone for your relationship. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I respect you, and I think there are some things that I can learn from you.
And maybe here's a slightly less abrupt way to approach that. If that feels really awkward, you can go like, can I please take you out for coffee? I have some things I want to ask you. Right. Or like, I have some questions that I think you can help me with. Right. Like,
Yeah.
And the reason why I frame that is because walking up to someone and saying like, I need to learn from you, it just feels intimidating.
It does, but at the same time, like it sets the tone. And these are not people that I don't previously already have relationships with.
Yeah, it's not ideal
like,
to do this.
It's not some random stranger that's like, I'm not walking up to like Doug Kleindens and like, hey, I really love your ministry. Can you mentor me?
But when you met up with Sean,
yeah,
you asked, you said, hey, I need to have someone to talk to about some serious stuff, but you didn't unload everything right then on your first conversation with him. You guys went out and got
I
coffee.
did explicitly say, hey, I want you to mentor me.
Okay, cool. Well,
but I'm also because again, it sets the expectation.
Right.
Like, I'm not here just because we're buddies.
Right.
Like, I need someone in my life to impart wisdom to me.
I'm just trying to give an out to people who are not used to being as transparent as you are.
They need to not have an out.
Well, sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah, I know. Okay, and then one last thing that we'll wrap this up. To someone who is of the older generation.
What does that mean?
I think that's different for when I say older generation. I think that's individual to your circumstances of the people that are surrounded by you. So like you might be a part of a church where like a 40-year-old is the older generation compared to the people in your church.
Okay.
When you have people that are underneath you or younger than you, I want to try to encourage people to create accountability groups.
Yeah. Multi-generational,
because there's some, they talk about how the young will learn from the old, right, in scripture. And I think something that blessed me so much was someone older than me saying, hey, you can fight this.
Right.
Even though he was only 4 years older than me, it was enough for me to say, hey, I can do this.
Right.
But at the time, he was the only one that was transparent enough with me to talk about his struggles in the past and to say, like, hey, I have conquered this. Right. So can you. Right. That being said, if you are listening to this and it is not your personal struggle anymore, or even if it is, creating an environment of trust and accountability. Like, I'm not saying blast your business across the pulpit of the church, but like find a way to create a group that lets the younger generation know, hey, the older generation still struggles with things.
Right.
Like, they need to know that they're not expected to be perfect.
And you don't have to be completely free and totally delivered for years from this addiction in order to do that because the thing about it is, again, this is something that people of all ages are grappling with, of all different levels of ministerial involvement.
Yeah.
Right. It is.
Of course, work with your pastor and make sure that you have their approval first before going and doing that. But like,
of course,
I think this is something that needs to be talked about more. It's too taboo.
Yeah.
There's too much secrecy behind it, and the only way it will be normalized in conversation is if we bring it out in the open.
Yeah.
Well, private open.
Yeah. You can create a space of safety and privacy while still sharing and being healed by the body.
Yeah. Use wisdom, because not everyone will view it the same way that we're talking about right now.
Right.
But I really think this is needed, at least for you guys I hope this sparks a desire to pray about asking God for wisdom about it.
Right. One other thing I want to kind of cap this off with too.
I'm sorry, people.
Yeah. Just because we haven't said this explicitly.
Yeah.
Right. You can struggle with pornography, and you can have highs and lows with that struggle in seasons where it is more difficult, and you can still have a good marriage.
Yes, 100%.
And I'm not saying that you can have a good marriage if you ignore your struggle with pornography. You can't have a good marriage if you refuse to do the work.
Yeah.
To improve and to focus on ways to change.
Yeah.
Right.
But there needs to be transparency between you and your wife, or your husband.
You cannot have a hidden addiction in your marriage and have a good marriage.
No, that will destroy your marriage.
Yeah. Besides going and getting all the resources, I just want people to know that having this in your history does not disqualify you from having a godly marriage, even if it's not in your actual history, right?
Yeah.
If you are committed to working on this and you are committed to addressing those underlying things that are, sort of leading to your use of this, right? If you're committed to doing the work, then you can do the work alongside a healthy apostolic dating life and marriage.
Yeah.
I want you to be careful. We want people to have space in between a period of addiction and before they start dating. Ideally a year or more, right?
Yeah.
We talk about this directly in our consultations, not to scare anybody off. And we're compassionate about it. I mean, you've heard us talk about it, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to judge you if you struggle with this or you're currently struggling with it, and we'll connect you to help, right? But I just want people to understand that pornography is not a death sentence on your relationships. It is not something that is going to ruin your ability to have a healthy marriage. How much time have we been on this?
2 hours and 5 minutes.
Okay. Hey.
Hey.
I love you very much.
I love you too.
And I'm really, really proud of you.
Thank you.
For all the work that you've done on this. And I'm proud of you for stepping into what I believe is a call that God has put on you and given you. I don't believe that God designed your struggles with pornography, right?
Oh, sure.
But I believe that God has taken that and your unique capabilities of being transparent and connecting with people and is calling you to help people with that. And I am so proud of you for stepping into that despite the discomfort, because I know it's not comfortable to talk about all this and put everything out in front of people.
Yeah, I feel a little bit so I'm hesitant for people to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
But again, now that I know the root cause, it has given me so much freedom and a lot less shame about it.
Yeah, when you give it a name.
Because I hope to be a Nick for someone else.
Yeah.
If you ever listen to this, Nick, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it wasn't for him, I'm going to repeat it again, saying that you can fight this and you're allowed to say no to yourself.
Yeah.
I would not have heard that anywhere else.
No, and it gave you the tools to begin the process.
Yeah. And again, for all you Bible thumpers out there, yes, I know Jesus gives us the power to resist temptation and all this other stuff. I understand that. But with the culture of the people around us, it didn't feel attainable.
No. I love you and I'm proud of you. Thank you for setting up all of the lights and cameras and complexity to get us at least partially settled into our new studio space.
Yeah. The funny thing is, this is just a temp setup.
Yeah. Hyperfixation is going to last for.
I know.
Here, we'll put announcements in the description. Go check it out.
Yeah. Announcements in description.
Come on a cruise with us soon. Details in the description.
Yep. Love you guys.
Have a great week, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.